Deep within the frozen subarctic circle, the storm-swept waters of the Barents Sea clash against the barren granite cliffs of the Kola Peninsula. In the summer of 1941, this desolate wilderness became the ultimate strategic gateway in the global struggle for Soviet survival. Here sat Murmansk, a remarkable maritime anomaly warmed by the terminal currents of the Gulf Stream. Unlike any other northern Soviet port, its deep water harbour remained completely ice-free throughout the freezing winters, offering an open window to the Atlantic. Connecting this remote outpost to the industrial heartland was the Kirov Railway. This heroic steel artery stretched over 1,000 kilometers across swamps and wilderness, forming a vital umbilical cord capable of carrying millions of tons of war material. As Operation Barbarossa launched in June 1941, the German High Command eyed this northern corridor with intense concern. They knew that if the Soviet Union could maintain a direct connection to the Western Allies, a dangerous logistical pipeline would open. Adolf Hitler was particularly obsessed with the far north, fearing a Soviet attack would capture the vital Swedish iron ore mines and the newly acquired Petsamo nickel fields, which were absolutely indispensable for high-performance German armored steel. To secure these resources and choke the Soviets, the Germans launched Operation Silver Fox. This highly ambitious three-pronged offensive sought to capture the port of Murmansk and permanently sever the Kirov Railway before the autumn mud set in. The northernmost wing, Operation Reindeer, deployed General Edward Dietlã's elite mountain corps Norway across the Finnish border. Their immediate task was to secure the Petsamo nickel district and establish a heavily fortified defensive screen against the Red Army. From Petsamo, Dietlã's mountain troops launched Operation Platinum Fox, a direct head-on assault across the desolate tundra toward Murmansk. Confident of victory, German planners believed the Soviet defenders would collapse under the weight of their Alpine veterans. Simultaneously, a southern pincer named Operation Arctic Fox pushed towards Salla and Kandalaksha, comprising German infantry, SS units, and General Hjalmar Silesvuo's experienced Finnish Third Corps. This force aimed to slice the Kirov Railway at the White Sea. But as the German columns crossed the frontier, their grand operational plans immediately collided with the brutal realities of subarctic geography. The barren tundra was not a highway, but an impassable obstacle course of granite and deep swamps. German staff maps proved catastrophically inaccurate, showing paved roads that were actually primitive reindeer tracks. Standard military vehicles sank to their axles in waterlogged bogs, and thousands of pack horses quickly died of exhaustion and lack of forage. Without usable roads, the offensive lost all mechanized momentum. Every shell, ration box, and gallon of fuel had to be carried manually by exhausted infantrymen over miles of trackless granite, completely paralyzing the Wehrmacht's rapid tactical doctrine. Blocking their path was the Soviet 14th Army under General Valerian Frolov. Digging deep into the natural granite ridges, the Red Army constructed a network of interlocking, heavily fortified defensive bunkers that could not be outflanked. The Battle of the Litsa River became a savage, static war of attrition. Dietlã's mountain troops made repeated, costly attempts to establish bridgeheads, but were repeatedly thrown back by devastating Soviet artillery and fierce infantry counterattacks. Support also came from the sea. The Soviet Northern Fleet deployed warships into the rocky fjords, using their heavy naval guns to pulverize German advance positions while landing thousands of elite naval infantry directly behind Dietlã's overextended flanks. In the southern sector, the offensive suffered an even greater disaster. The poorly trained SS Kampfgruppe Nord panicked during its first major engagement near Salla, collapsing under a sudden Soviet counterattack and forcing a general Axis halt. By November, the arrival of the brutal Arctic winter brought a definitive end to the German advance. Shivering in shallow rocky trenches, with temperatures plunging to 40 below zero, the Wehrmacht was forced to accept a permanent freezing stalemate. With Murmansk successfully defended, the vital Arctic convoy routes swung into full operation. The historic PQ convoys began braving the freezing Barents Sea, delivering a steady, high-impact transfusion of Allied military hardware and industrial raw materials. Hundreds of British Hawker Hurricanes and American Curtiss P-40 fighters were unloaded on the Murmansk docks, immediately taking to the skies to defend the northern corridor and protect the railway from the relentless bombers of the Luftwaffe. Thousands of Valentine and Matilda tanks were rushed south, playing an incredibly critical role in the defense of Moscow. These foreign imports often represented up to 40% of the medium and heavy armor defending the capital during that desperate winter. Under constant German bombardment, Soviet railway brigades performed near miraculous feats of engineering. They repaired hundreds of direct bomb cuts within hours, ensuring that the vital supply trains kept running through the polar nights. But what if Operation Silver Fox had succeeded? What if the Germans had captured Murmansk or severed the railway? The loss of this northern lifeline would have immediately choked off the primary supply route during the war's most critical months. In late 1941, alternative routes like the Persian Corridor were primitive bottlenecks, completely unable to absorb the massive tonnage. Without Arctic aid, the Red Army would have faced Moscow's defense starved of fighter aircraft, tanks, and ammunition. Ultimately, the heroic defense of Murmansk preserved the Allied coalition's most vital umbilical cord. By holding the Arctic gateway, the Soviet Union secured the material wealth that sustained the Red Army, paving the road to absolute victory.